So I stripped off the prop guard's legs and then found various screws holding it together. So once I unscrewed it, I found that it came apart really easily. It's just such a good quality join that when I was first looking I was wondering whether it was glued together. So there's no problem with getting inside it. And look at those big motors with the gears, so all that's coming out. A really strange coincidence, or maybe it's something about the early days of drones, but the motherboard, flight control board for the Bugs 3, the holes line up with the boards that came in the Syma X8 Clone. So how about that? It's going to be even easier to put the thing together. It's even got the date of build components there. Looks like the end of 2014. I'm very impressed with the way this thing is put together. Its workmanship is really good. It was a pretty cheap drone in its day, and yet they've made a lot of effort with the way it's been built. It's nice and modular. Look at the way the motors are all nicely plugged in and come out without doing any damage. And also, the more I look at the frame, the more impressed I am. It's incredibly light plastic, but because of the way it goes together, it's very strong. It's a mistake they didn't repeat as they went on. If you want to sell more frames, you don't do that. I shouldn't be so cynical. The same, I'm impressed by what I'm seeing as I take it apart. Again, I'm impressed with the rubber mounted flight control board. So that's the mount that sits just above the battery bay, and then rubber mounting onto here. So quality workmanship. I can probably, if I want to, even reuse the LEDs, plug them straight into a Bugs 3 motherboard. Looks like compatible plugs. Yep, there we have it, the Bugs 3 motherboard, and I've just been able to plug those LEDs straight in. The next discovery is that not only is it plug compatible to plug in the LEDs, and that the holes line up to put the flight control board screwed into the holes that the original flight control board came out of, but I'm now looking at batteries, and it turns out a 2S will fit right under there, no problem at all. But the 3S that I'll prefer to fly with these days, well, hang on, that was the 3S. So the 3S, with just a little bit of fitting, will go under there. I just need to lift it up a bit, and there's plenty of room to move the flight control board up, and the 2S would have just sat in there in the standard fitting. So talk about standardization. This is pretty inspiring stuff. So far, much better than I thought it would be. Okay, I'm about ready to call it a day. So I'm pleased with the way the motherboard, flight control board is going to fit in. The next challenge is going to be motors. I think I'm going to have to cut away the top of this to allow the motor to be exposed, so the prop can get out. And on the bottom, that'll go inside there. I've got to build that up a bit so it'll sit neatly in there, but I'm sure it's doable. So I'm looking forward to carrying on with my next session on the conversion. So at this stage we're just looking at an empty shell, but what I've just done a temporary latch up with Velcro of my my normal camera housing, and I think it's going to work. I'll cut Velcro to fit appropriate when I'm ready to go, but yeah, it's looking promising so far. So I've got the shell separated. I've got the Bugs 3 flight control board in the middle with the LEDs plugged in. That's just an old one that's blown. And now I'm starting to think about the motor mountings. So what I have here, got a temporary piece of wood, and then the real thing will be metal to cool it. So that's just sitting in there temporarily. This is just a mock-up. Got to make that hole bigger and mount the. Got to make the hole bigger and mount the motor a little higher, and then, as I say, with a aluminium plate rather than the block of wood underneath it. And that's where I got to. Off to buy a Dremel tool to cut out some round holes, so bye till next time.